The invitation had arrived on cream-colored cardstock with gold-embossed lettering. The Thompson family cordially invites you to celebrate Richard's promotion to senior partner at Willowbrook Country Club. Below the formal text, someone had handwritten in pencil, "Dress code strictly enforced, no cheap clothing." I stared at the invitation while sitting in my home office, surrounded by acquisition reports and property deeds. Willowbrook Country Club. I knew it well. I'd purchased it 18 months ago when the previous ownership group defaulted on their loans during the economic downturn. The $23 million acquisition had been one of my simpler deals, a distressed asset with solid bones and an excellent location. What my family didn't know was that their struggling relative had been quietly building a hospitality empire worth $89 million over the past 8 years. While they saw me as the family disappointment who worked some office job, I'd been strategically acquiring undervalued properties, turning them profitable and reinvesting the returns. The country club had been particularly satisfying to purchase. Uncle Richard had been a member there for 15 years, constantly bragging about his exclusive access and using it as a symbol of his superiority over other family members. He'd made countless comments over the years about how certain people could never afford such luxury. Now he was throwing a celebration party there, completely unaware that his despised niece owned every golf cart, every dining room chair, and every blade of grass on the property. I arrived at Willowbrook on Saturday afternoon wearing a simple navy dress from Target, the kind of outfit that would reinforce their assumptions about my financial status. The valet took my modest Honda Civic without comment, while luxury cars lined the circular drive. The celebration was being held in the Magnolia Room, an elegant space overlooking the 18th green. 40 family members had gathered to honor Uncle Richard's partnership promotion at his law firm. The room buzzed with conversation about success, achievement, and the privileges of the professional class. "Sarah." Aunt Patricia spotted me immediately. "You made it. We weren't sure you could afford the time off work." "I managed," I replied, accepting a glass of water from the server. "Well, isn't that nice? Richard will be so pleased you're here to see what real success looks like." I nodded and found a seat at the back table, the one clearly designated for lesser family members. My cousins Jennifer and Michael were already there, along with my brother David, who worked as a high school teacher. "Check out this place," Jennifer whispered. "Uncle Richard really made it, didn't he? The membership fees here are insane," Michael added. "Like $50,000 just to join, plus monthly dues." I glanced around the room, noting the details I'd personally approved during the renovation. The crown molding, the crystal chandeliers, the hand-painted wallpaper. Every element had been carefully selected to maintain the club's prestigious atmosphere while improving profitability. Uncle Richard stood at the front of the room, holding court with the successful branch of the family. At 62, he cut an impressive figure in his tailored suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, his manner radiating the confidence of a man who'd never questioned his place in the social hierarchy. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, tapping his champagne glass with a silver spoon. "Thank you all for joining me in this magnificent setting to celebrate not just my promotion, but the Thompson family's continued success." Applause filled the room. "Some of you may not appreciate what it takes to earn access to a place like Willowbrook," he continued, his eyes scanning the room and landing briefly on our back table. "The standards here are quite high, both financially and socially." More approving murmurs from the front tables. "But that's what separates us from ordinary people. We set goals, we work hard, and we achieve the kind of success that opens doors to exclusive opportunities." I took another sip of water, watching the family members at the prestigious tables nod in agreement. These were my relatives who worked in finance, real estate, and corporate law, the ones who'd always made it clear that my office job placed me in an entirely different category. Now, I know some family members are still finding their way in life. Uncle Richard's voice carried a patronizing tone as he glanced toward our table again. "And that's fine. Not everyone can achieve this level of success. But I hope our achievements can serve as inspiration for those who are still struggling." Jennifer shifted uncomfortably beside me. David stared at his hands. The condescension was thick enough to cut with a knife. "Take my niece Sarah, for example," Uncle Richard continued, and my stomach dropped. "She's been working the same entry-level job for years, living in that tiny apartment, driving her old car. But she's here tonight, surrounded by what real success looks like. Maybe this will motivate her to aim higher. The room turned to look at me. Some faces showed pity, others showed the satisfied superiority of people confirming their place in the social order. I felt heat rise in my cheeks, but I kept my expression neutral. The truth is, Uncle Richard was warming to his theme now. Some people are meant to achieve great things and others are meant to, well, to provide a contrast. Sarah will never own anything nice like this country club membership. Unlike successful family members like us. Everyone nodded in agreement. The message was clear. Know your place, accept your limitations, and be grateful for the opportunity to witness real achievement. I simply sipped my water and said nothing. The dinner continued with more speeches about success, achievement, and the rewards of hard work. Throughout the meal, I received a steady stream of well-meaning but condescending comments from relatives. Don't feel bad about your situation, Sarah, Cousin Jennifer's mother told me during dessert. Not everyone can be wealthy. You contribute in other ways. Have you considered going back to school? Suggested Uncle Robert. Maybe you could still improve your prospects. The important thing is that you're here to support family success, added Aunt Margaret. Even if you can't achieve it yourself. Each comment was delivered with a smile, as if their pity was a gift they were generously bestowing upon me. I thanked them politely and continued eating the chocolate mousse that I'd personally approved for the club's new dessert menu. After dinner, Uncle Richard approached our table with his characteristic swagger. Sarah, thank you for coming tonight. I hope this experience has been educational for you. It certainly has been, I replied truthfully. Good. You know, there's something to be said for knowing your place in life. Not everyone can be a success, but everyone can appreciate success when they see it. Absolutely. I mean, look around you. This is what achievement looks like. The Willowbrook Country Club represents the pinnacle of social and financial success in this city. The membership requirements alone would be impossible for someone in your situation. I imagine they would be, I agreed. Exactly. You'll never own anything nice like this. But you can enjoy it vicariously through family members who have worked hard enough to earn access. He patted my shoulder in what he probably thought was an avuncular gesture. Keep working hard, Sarah. Maybe someday you'll be able to afford to eat at a place like this on your own. That would be something, I said. As the evening wound down, I lingered in the club's marble-appointed lobby, watching my relatives say their goodbyes. Uncle Richard was holding court by the fireplace, regaling a group with stories about his legal victories and his plans to host regular family gatherings at the club. This is going to be our family's regular meeting place, he announced. Quarterly dinners for the successful branch of the family. A tradition we can pass down to our children. I walked to my car with their laughter echoing behind me. The valet brought my Honda Civic around and I could see several relatives watching from the windows, probably commenting on my modest vehicle. The next morning I was in my office by 7 a.m., reviewing financial reports from my various properties. Willowbrook Country Club's numbers were particularly strong. Membership was at capacity, the restaurant was profitable, and the golf course was booked solid through the summer. At 10:30 a.m., I called the club's general manager, Patricia Wells. Good morning, Patricia. I need you to handle something for me. Of course, Ms. Chin. What can I do for you? There's a member named Richard Thompson. Membership number 4782. I need his membership terminated immediately. Any particular reason I should document? Owner's discretion. No further explanation necessary. I'll handle it personally. Should I call him directly? Yes. Please inform him that his membership has been revoked effective immediately, and that he's no longer welcome on the property. Understood. What about his upcoming event reservations? He has the Magnolia Room booked for next month. Cancel everything. And Patricia? Yes. Make sure he understands that this decision is final and non-negotiable. At 2:47 p.m. my phone rang. The caller ID showed Uncle Richard's number. Sarah. His voice was strained, panicked. You'll never believe what just happened. Willowbrook Country Club just revoked my membership. That's terrible, Uncle Richard. Did they give you a reason? The manager said it was owner's orders and refused to explain further. 15 years of membership and they just kicked me out with no explanation. How strange. Did you try talking to someone in charge? I demanded to speak with the owner, but they said the owner doesn't take calls from former members. Former members. Can you believe that? That does seem harsh. Sarah, I need to ask you something and I hope you won't take this the wrong way. Of course. You don't happen to know anyone connected to the club, do you? Anyone who might be able to help me understand what happened. The irony was exquisite. The man who'd spent the evening explaining why I could never afford nice things was now asking for my help with his country club problem. Well, I said thoughtfully, I might know someone who could provide information. What I actually did was call Patricia back. Please have the club's legal counsel send Mr. Thompson a formal letter explaining that his membership was terminated due to conduct unbecoming a member. What conduct should I reference? Public disparagement of other members based on their perceived financial status. We have a zero-tolerance policy for that kind of behavior. Understood. The letter will go out today. 3 hours later, Uncle Richard called again. Sarah, I got a letter from the club's lawyers. They're claiming I violated some conduct policy by making disparaging comments about other members. But I don't understand, I never said anything inappropriate. What kind of comments are they referring to? Something about financial status discrimination. But Sarah, I was just talking about success and achievement. You were there, you heard everything I said. There was nothing wrong with it. I see. You don't think. I mean, when I mentioned you during my speech, that wasn't inappropriate, was it? I was just using you as an example of different life paths. As an example of what, exactly? Well, you know, of how some people struggle while others succeed. I wasn't being mean about it. You said I would never own anything nice. Right, but that's just realistic. I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. I was just pointing out the obvious differences in our situations. And what situations are those? Sir, come on. You work an entry-level job, live in a small apartment, drive an old car. I'm a senior partner at a major law firm with a country club membership. These are just facts. Are they? Of course they are. Look, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but I was just being honest about our different circumstances. Tell me, Uncle Richard, what exactly do you think my job is? You work in some office somewhere doing, I don't know, filing or administrative work. I see. And you've thought this for how long? Well, always, I guess. I mean, you never talk about work, you don't live extravagantly, you drive that old car. So you made assumptions based on appearances. Reasonable assumptions. Sir, what's this about? Can you help me with the club situation or not? Actually, I can help you understand exactly what happened. Thank you. I knew I could count on family. Uncle Richard, do you know who owns Willowbrook Country Club? Some investment group, I think. Why? The investment group is called Pacific Holdings LLC. Okay. I own Pacific Holdings LLC. There was a long silence. I'm sorry, what? I own the country club, Uncle Richard. I have for 18 months. That's not possible. I purchased it for $23 million when the previous owners defaulted on their loans. $23 million? Sarah, you can't be serious. I'm very serious. Your membership was terminated because the owner, me, doesn't tolerate members who publicly disparage others based on perceived financial status. But you work an office job. I own a consulting firm that specializes in distressed asset acquisition. My portfolio is worth approximately $89 million. $89 million? Yes. The entry-level job you mentioned is actually me running a multi-million-dollar business. That small apartment is a downtown penthouse that I own outright. And the old car is a personal choice. I prefer to live below my means. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Sarah, are you telling me you're rich? I'm telling you that your assumptions about my life were completely wrong. But why didn't you tell us? Because I wanted to see how you'd treat me without knowing about my money. And last night, you showed me exactly how you really feel about family members you perceive as unsuccessful. I never meant. You used me as an example of failure. In front of 40 family members. At a club I own. If I had known. What? You would have treated me differently? That's exactly the problem, Uncle Richard. Sarah, please. You have to understand. I understand perfectly. Your respect is conditional on wealth. Your family love is based on social status. And your treatment of people depends entirely on what you think they can do for you. That's not true. Isn't it? When you thought I was poor, You use me as a cautionary tale. Now that you know I'm wealthy, you're desperately trying to apologize and get back into my good graces. I was wrong. I made a mistake. You made a choice. You chose to publicly humiliate someone you believed couldn't defend themselves. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. So you're keeping me banned from the club? The membership termination stands. Sarah, please. That club means everything to me. My professional reputation, my social standing, are all based on memberships and appearances rather than character. I noticed. I'll apologize publicly. I'll tell everyone I was wrong about you. Uncle Richard, do you honestly think this is about wanting an apology? Then what is it about? It's about showing you what it feels like to be excluded, dismissed, and humiliated based on someone else's assumptions about your worth. I get it now. I understand. Please just give me another chance. The decision is final. I hung up and immediately received calls from 6 other family members who'd heard about Uncle Richard's club situation. Each conversation followed a predictable pattern: shock about my wealth, desperate backtracking about previous comments, and attempts to position themselves as having always believed in me. The most telling call came from Aunt Patricia, who'd greeted me with condescending pity just 24 hours earlier. Sarah, sweetie, Richard told me the most amazing news. We had no idea about your success. Didn't you? Of course not. You're so modest. But now that we know, we're so proud of you. Are you proud of me or proud of my bank account? Sarah, that's not fair. We've always loved you. Have you? Because last night you told me not to feel bad about my situation, and suggested I contribute in other ways since I couldn't be wealthy. I was just trying to be supportive. You were trying to manage what you saw as a family embarrassment. That's not true. Aunt Patricia, let me ask you something. If you found out tomorrow that I'd lost all my money, how would you treat me? The same way. With love and respect. Would you invite me to family gatherings at expensive venues? Well, I mean, that would depend on whether I could afford it. Exactly. Sarah, you're being unfair. Family relationships are complicated. They don't have to be. But you've all made them conditional on wealth and status. Within a week, the news of my actual financial situation had spread through the entire extended family. The response was swift and predictable. Suddenly everyone wanted to reconnect, to spend time together, to hear about my business success. Invitations poured in. Relatives who hadn't called me in years were organizing lunches, dinners, and coffee dates. The same people who'd spent decades treating me as the family's cautionary tale were now eager to claim credit for my success. We always knew Sarah would make it big, became the family's new narrative. But the most persistent contact came from Uncle Richard himself. He called daily, sent letters, and even showed up at my office building lobby twice before security removed him. His messages followed a predictable cycle: anger at being deceived, bargaining for reinstatement at the club, depression about his social standing, and acceptance that he'd learned his lesson. The final confrontation came 3 weeks after the country club incident. I was leaving my office building when Uncle Richard appeared beside my car. Sarah, please. Just 5 minutes. Uncle Richard, I've asked you not to contact me. I need you to understand something. I've lost everything. My social standing, my professional reputation, my sense of self-worth. Do you understand what you've done to me? I've done exactly what you spent years doing to me. That's different. How? Because I was successful. I had earned my position. And you assumed I hadn't earned mine. But you hid it from us. I lived quietly and let you make your own assumptions. Your assumptions revealed your character. Sarah, I'm begging you. Please reinstate my membership. I'll do anything. Uncle Richard, do you know what the most devastating part of this has been for me? What? Realizing that 40 years of family relationships were based entirely on your perceptions of my social status. That's not true. Isn't it? When you thought I was poor, you used me as an example of failure. When you learned I was wealthy, you immediately tried to become my best friend. What part of that suggests genuine family love? I made a mistake. You revealed your true values. And those values are incompatible with the kind of family relationships I want in my life. So what now? You're cutting me off forever. I'm not cutting you off. I'm simply treating you exactly how you treated me. based on my assessment of your character and worth. And what's your assessment? That you're someone who judges people entirely by their financial status and treats family members as either assets or embarrassments depending on their perceived success. I can change. Can you? Or would you just modify your behavior toward me while continuing to treat other people the same way? He didn't answer. Uncle Richard, here's what I want you to understand. The country club membership wasn't really the punishment. The punishment is knowing that all your family relationships are as conditional and superficial as mine turned out to be. That's cruel. It's honest. And honesty is something our family has been avoiding for a very long time. 6 months later, I hosted a small family gathering at my penthouse. The guest list was carefully curated. Only relatives who had reached out with genuine apologies and demonstrated consistent respectful behavior over time. David, my teacher brother, was there. He'd actually been kind to me before and after learning about my wealth. Jennifer had written a thoughtful letter acknowledging her assumptions and asking how to rebuild our relationship. A few cousins had proven their character through consistent actions rather than words. Uncle Richard was not invited. The gathering was small, intimate, and genuine. We talked about our lives, our dreams, our challenges, not our bank accounts or social status. For the first time in decades, I felt like I was part of a real family rather than a financial hierarchy. But the most meaningful moment came when Jennifer pulled me aside. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happier now? After everything that happened? I thought about it carefully. Yes. Because now I know who my real family is. And who is that? The people who are here tonight. The ones who chose to love me regardless of my bank account. What about the others? They're still family by blood. But they're not family by choice. And I've learned that chosen family is the only kind that really matters. Today, 2 years after the country club incident, I maintain relationships with family members who have proven their character over time. The others, including Uncle Richard, remain peripheral figures who occasionally attempt reconciliation but haven't demonstrated the fundamental change in values that would make genuine relationships possible. Uncle Richard eventually joined a different country club, though his membership there lacks the prestige he'd attached to Willowbrook. He still makes comments at family gatherings about success and achievement, but he's more careful about his targets now. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd revealed my wealth gradually, if I'd tried to educate my family about their assumptions rather than letting them play out so dramatically. But then I remember Uncle Richard's words, "You'll never own anything nice like this. Unlike successful family members like us." And I realized that some truths can only be revealed through experience. The country club is thriving under my ownership. I've maintained its exclusive atmosphere while implementing policies that focus on character rather than just wealth. The membership application now includes questions about community service and personal values, not just financial statements. Sometimes, when I'm having dinner in the Magnolia Room, I think about that evening when my uncle used me as an example of what failure looks like. He was right about one thing. I'll never own anything like what he had. Because what he had was conditional respect, superficial relationships, and a social standing built on exclusion and judgment. What I own is unconditional love from people who chose to know me as a person, not as a bank account. And that's worth far more than any country club membership could ever be.